Once I moved to Toronto, I kind of integrated both of my passions. Started working in high schools, teaching an after-school program, but it wasn't consistent enough, so I got my personal training certification. And I started working one-on-one with clients. About 8 years ago, I started my Instagram. Really was just posting, like, not even so much wellness, more fitness. That was when videos weren't so much a thing, so a lot of photos, and my goal was to get clients. And then from there, I started to grow my business. I started doing a lot of corporate wellness. I started doing in-person classes. And then eventually I built a retreat business. And I basically did everything that you could do fitness related in person in Toronto. And then the pandemic happened.
Hello, my wonderful listeners, and welcome to this week's CATAMANIA episode. I have with me today a beautiful woman I met in Miami, a wellness coach, a trainer, and a content creator. Warning, when you do go on her page, you probably don't want to go when you're hungry because the amount of delicious recipes that she has on there and the way she makes it all look aesthetically pleasing, it's going to be the equivalent of watching like Chef's Table when you're hungry. So maybe don't do it. You know why?
That is quite the compliment.
Because when you do it in an aesthetically pleasing way,
Yeah.
and you're even a tad bit hungry,
Yeah.
I find anything related to food, if I watch it, honestly, I get ridiculously hungry. So just make sure you eat something before you go on her page. But yeah, I love her content, and I love her way of training and teaching how she trains. So I know you will enjoy this episode. And as per usual, remember to click the subscribe button, the whole ordeal, the whole spiel. And welcome, Kelsey Rose,
Thank you.
CATAMANIA.
I'm so happy to be here. So excited. Honored that you really wanted me to be on here. So I'm excited to have this conversation.
Tell me, how did your journey start and how did you get into fitness and wellness?
So I actually went to school to be a teacher, went to a university in Ontario. I don't know where majority of your followers are from, but I went to Brock University, did 5 years there, moved to Toronto, realized that it would probably take about 10 years to become an actual school teacher because no one retires in Ontario.
Oh, yeah.
And so I actually developed a fitness program for high schools because I still wanted to work with students, work in schools, but I had this passion for fitness and for working out. When I went to university, I stopped playing sports and I was like the gym girl. That was literally my nickname around campus because I just fell in love with working out and I was at the gym every single day because I still wanted to be active. So once I moved to Toronto, I kind of integrated both of my passions. Started working in high schools, teaching an after-school program, but it wasn't consistent enough. So I got my personal training certification. This is like 10 years ago. And I started working one-on-one with clients. Eventually, about 8 years ago, I started my Instagram. Really was just posting, not even so much wellness, more fitness. That was when videos weren't so much a thing, so a lot of photos. And my goal was to get clients. And then from there, I started to grow my business. I started doing a lot of corporate wellness. I started doing I started doing in-person classes. And then eventually I built a retreat business. And I basically did everything that you could do fitness related in person in Toronto. And then the pandemic happened. So everything I did was in person and I had to move online. During the pandemic, I started doing online workouts on Instagram, built a following that way, decided to build an app. 3.5 years later, here we are.
How was the transition for you to go from, having worked for something and then the pandemic hitting and seeing just basically like an adversity hit straight into your field of work? How did you manage this stress?
Yeah, I was scared. I remember at the time I had a boyfriend, I remember just like crying to him, being like, first of all, what's happening in the world?
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, I can't do anything that I was doing before. I started doing some online training with a few clients that I had, but a lot of them were older and they didn't really like it. So I had to pivot. And then my outlet is and will always be moving my body, working out, wellness. So of course I started doing workouts on Instagram Live and anything like and on Zoom with just, anyone who would come. And then from there, I just built this kind of online community of people who wanted to do my online workouts as well because it was their outlet during the pandemic. And that's really how it all started. But yeah, initially I was scared. I was worried. I didn't know, this is how I make money. This is how I live and I eat and I pay for my rent and, it's just me. So I had to figure it out. And luckily I was able to, and I was able to pivot. And now it's for the best because I can do it from anywhere. I'm from Toronto, but now I live in Miami. I'm here hopefully permanently. Before I moved to Toronto, I was living in Turks and Caicos. I mean, like, who lives in Turks and Caicos? So it has allowed me to pursue my passion in more of a climate that is more suitable to me.
How did you like Turks and Caicos? This is kind of like a side question, but was it quiet?
It's so quiet. Yeah. Anyone who goes there doesn't understand how I lived there for 4 months at a time, but for me, it was perfect. I love the quiet. I love beach, ocean, palm trees. I knew a lot of people who were always coming down to visit, things like that. So I never felt lonely. I also made friends there. There's a lot of Canadians there. So,
oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
There was an island of some sort. I don't know if it's a rumor and I don't know which one it is, but like that there was an island, a tropical island that was supposed to belong to Canada.
Turks and Caicos.
Is that the one? Oh, okay. Yeah. So then imagine how many, like if that was actually Canada, everybody would want to live there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
That needs to happen. I heard that coming back into talks last year. I don't know if it'll ever be a thing, but that would be great for Canadians. Give them somewhere to go.
I heard so many stories from people coming out of COVID and basically sharing the story of like how it was borderline one of the worst hit on their career, on their business.
Yeah.
But then they came out of it like better than they ever imagined.
Yeah.
Would you say in some way that adversity that you faced was like a really necessary step? Otherwise you wouldn't have done it?
Yeah. People always told me, why don't you go online with your fitness business? It's so much more scalable. And I never wanted to because I loved the one-on-one and working with people in person. So I never had that actual push to do it. But when it was my only option, I had no other choice but to, take the plunge and build this online community. But looking back then, like I said, I was really scared and nervous and I didn't know what was going to happen. Now, fast forward, I'm so happy that it did because, again, I wouldn't have done it if it weren't for the pandemic. So in a way, it was a blessing. I know that obviously it affected everyone differently, but for me, fast forward to now, I'm so happy that it happened because if not, to be honest, would probably still be in Toronto and not living my life to its full potential.
Yeah. No offense to Toronto, but Miami's cool. No, that's awesome. I'm a little bit bitter about how, our government and many governments handle that. We don't have to get into that, but it was just insanity. And I remember when like the first wave of like the gyms never made sense to me. Like the training and the gyms never made sense to me. And
it got hit so hard. It's really sad.
It was infuriating because it's like you're doing what? You're closing gyms? Like where people, what? Like that's how you stay healthy. Like breaking news, that's how you stay healthy. You need to move your body, especially when there's something like a pandemic going on and we barely get any vitamin D. That's like the only way we can actually.
And you have a community there, you socialize. I think gyms and restaurants got hit the worst. I know so many people personally that had a gym or a restaurant that closed in Toronto during the pandemic. So yeah, a lot of people got like very, very affected by it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm happy to hear that through that adversity, you found a way out and into a better place.
Mm.
You're now living in Miami.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're enjoying it. It's a silly question to even ask you. How do you like Miami?
Everyone always, I'm like, I hate it. Like, no, obviously I love it. It's the best thing ever.
I had somebody on my podcast the other day, and she's an immigrant from Russia. She lives in Miami. She's been living here for like 17 years.
Oh, wow.
And she said, not a lot of things trigger her, but the one thing that does is when people who were born and raised in Miami who say, I hate Miami. She's like, no, there's nothing.
Yeah.
You can't hate it. There's so much opportunity. There's so many things here. Do you feel like you're like growing faster here in your business and personally than you were in Toronto?
100%. I feel that it's just a better place to make content.
Mm-hmm.
There's more opportunities, especially with brands, because obviously a lot of like brands are US based. And now that I like finally feel this year that closer to the end of last year, because even though I got my visa about a year and a few months ago, it still takes a while to feel like grounded. And, you know, you're moving to a new country, even though we come from Canada, and it's like, well, you know, it's a new country, but not really. It's like, no, it is. I'm starting over. I had to furnish a new place. I need to open bank accounts and get a car and get insurance. And it's a lot of work. And so for a lot of months, it was very stressful. And I felt like I was in fight or flight. And I actually felt like I couldn't focus on myself and my business. I put dating to a side. I put, you know, a lot of things with work to the side because I just needed to get like settled and set up. And now that I'm past that and, you know, I have everything's good and Gucci, I can focus on my business, which is doing, you know, really well and thriving right now. Again, it's the environment, it's just the opportunities, and I would not be where I am right now at all if I was still in Toronto. Even a lot of my friends who are content creators in Toronto, they are just so envious of the fact that like we can go outside and, you know, there's sunlight to film, like there's good lighting to film a video for like a reel or for whatever it may be. So
for your mental health too.
For your
they like omit that. They don't talk about it enough.
And that's the other thing for your mental health. Like I wake up every morning and the sun's shining and it's coming in my window and I can go outside for 10 minutes and like take in that sunlight. And I can go for a walk and not be freezing and not have to wear like 15 layers. So from a personal perspective, from a work perspective, from a wellness perspective, yes, definitely I see a difference. And it has really, you know, changed my life living here. It really has.
Yeah. You and I were talking about this the other day briefly when I was at your event here, that you don't realize how big of an effect vitamin D has on you until you experience it. And then you're like, oh my God. You can't go back. You can't go back. Yeah.
It's hard. Like you can't live here. Or even when I was in Turks, I was like, you know, I'm not moving back to Toronto after this. Like I have to make a different move. And unfortunately in Canada, there's no sunshine state. There's sunshine province. No. There's nowhere where it's warm and the sun is shining.
Actually, I will have to correct you.
Okay.
There is. Are you ready?
Yes.
Drum roll, please. Apparently the sunniest place in Canada is Alberta. I live there.
Yeah, I was like, someone just told me that, but it was you.
But like -30 in the winter?
And like,
sure.
I'm sorry, Calgary. I could live there for like a month.
Right.
But, you know, that's not a long term. There's no palm trees there.
There's no palm trees there. There's just
but a lot
trees.
Of beautiful mountains.
Yes. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Banff area and stuff like that. But it's rough. It's really rough. And it's a great place if you're really into the corporate grind.
Yeah.
Because that's all you do there.
Yeah.
Just corporate world, you go, and I mean, no offense to people who are maybe not in the corporate grind or you're succeeding there, like that's totally fine if it's for you. But yeah, like I lived there for 7 years. My husband grew up there and we were let's just, let's go.
It's good for a moment.
It's good for a moment.
And for certain people, I mean, again, no hate. I was telling you this. I went to Alberta during the pandemic when we couldn't travel, when we were trapped inside of Canada. And I had one and I had one of the best trips of my life. I loved it because I love the outdoors and I love nature. And we went to Canmore, we went to Banff, we went to Lake Louise, and it was just stunning. We did like crazy hikes, and yeah, it was a really cool place to explore.
Yeah. Do you find, I'm curious, there's this stereotype, I guess, that like Canadians are so polite, so nice. How do you find the difference between like, specifically Floridians, because you live in the United States, and Torontonians? The reason why I'm asking is because I personally feel like in Toronto, people are a little bit more blunt than the rest of Canada.
Yeah.
And in US so far, I've been to a couple of places, it seems like overall, people seem to be more blunt than in Canada.
More blunt?
More blunt, yeah. Do you have the same experience or not really?
Well, I think it's really funny because literally every single time I tell someone that I'm from Toronto, they're like, oh my God, Canadians are so nice. And it's the same response I'm not lying, every single time. Like every American says that, or even if you're from wherever else in the world and you're in the US, that's everyone's first response. So I think it's definitely a stereotype. I do think it is true to an extent. I think that just culturally, maybe we're brought up a little bit softer. I don't know if that's what it is, but I also think that I wouldn't say that people here are mean though. Like I think being in this environment when it's sunny out again and like a nice environment, people tend to just be happier. Yeah. Which means that they're going to probably be kinder to you as well. So I do get it when there's road rage on the I-95 and everyone's honking at each other and like they won't let you in or whatever. I see it in some ways, but I think overall, like sometimes I go back to Toronto, or even when I lived in Toronto, like I would go in my elevator, no one's saying hi, no one's, trying to talk to you. I feel like here people are just like, friendly and happy. And there, depending on the time of year, I feel like, again, the weather, seasonal depression, like it's a real thing and it can get to you. But overall, yes, I think that, there's a little bit more mannerism, like more of a mannerism aspect to Canadians and a little bit kinder. But I mean, I don't think it's as abrupt as people make it seem when they're like, oh, Canadians are so nice.
And meanwhile, you're like, I've met some questionable personas back home, right?
Yeah. Not everyone, but I get it.
Yeah, for sure. I prefer the bluntness of people. I mean, I come from Eastern Europe, you might know, so people there are like, it's like we just say it how it is. We rarely ever smile. Like when I go back home, as a matter of fact, for the first like week and a half to 2 weeks, it takes me a minute to adjust because I'm just like smiling at everybody like an idiot. People think I'm an idiot, right? Because they're like, why is she smiling? Like we didn't,
Trust me, I've been to Russia.
You've been to Russia?
Oh yeah.
Oh girl, we need to talk about that.
I went to St. Petersburg and I'm like walking down the street. Hi. I walk into the store. I'm like, hi. They are like,
why is she saying
hello?
Yeah,
why is she speaking to us? And why is she speaking English? The moment I would start speaking English, they heard obviously I'm not Russian. It was like they wouldn't even look at me.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That's a harsh culture. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your experience there? What brought you there?
I was there because a guy that I was dating at the time, he was from Toronto, got a job in Russia. And I went to go see him. To go visit him. But yeah, I'm glad that it happened. And, I got to explore a beautiful city for a week. But definitely the culture is quite different. A bit different. Yeah.
It's funny because like I went back home after not being there for, I think like 2 years or 3 years. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. And I'm from Moldova. And I was sitting at the table with my friends at a restaurant and the server came and I said, hi, how are you? In Russian. And the server and both of my friends were like, they were so confused. I was like, why are you looking at me like that? Yeah. And my friend was like, Cristina, we don't do that here. Like, you don't ask, how are you? Unless you know the person or you actually genuinely want to know how they're doing, right? Like, that's just not, you know?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
So I was like, oh, yeah, right. And then after a while, you get used to it. And I think at first it might be perceived as if people are like rude or mean.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's just different way of communicating, because when you do get to know people, they're usually very
I remember
very
my
nice.
ex-boyfriend said that.
Yeah.
He said that, that culture, they cut out the bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you really want to know how
There's
the
no small
cashier's
talk.
doing?
Yeah.
I mean, as mean as that sounds,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
even saying that- I mean, like, you care, like, you hope that they're having a great day, but like, do you really give a fuck?
Exactly.
Probably not.
Exactly.
So they cut that out, and then once you break that person's shell, or they feel more like comfortable enough to open up to you, then they're nice and whatever. But yeah, in Canada and US, where everyone, hey, how are you?
How are you is just like a part of hi.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's like
How's
part
it
of saying
going?
hello.
Like, how's your day?
Yeah. I love that. What are your thoughts on somebody who's, we have a mutual friend, obviously, Cornelia, and what are your thoughts, I guess, however comfortable you are getting into the subject, on dating, and like dating in North America, dating in Canada versus US? I know you mentioned you have a boyfriend.
Mm-hmm. So
it's a loaded question.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how to tackle this, but I think that Toronto, I just felt it was way harder to date and to meet people. I would go out for dinner and with my girlfriends, once a week, once every couple of weeks. And it's not like guys were coming to talk to us, or we were meeting guys. There's nowhere really to go once you do go out for dinner. I don't know. It was just like a weird culture. And then when the pandemic happened too, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was dating someone, but then that lasted for about 5 months. And then I was single the remainder up until midway through last year. So I was single for 3 years. And I just felt, because of the pandemic, because of my transition, it was really hard to meet someone. And I was trying to sort my life and figure out my life. And I mentioned before, I kind of put dating on the side. But Toronto versus Miami, now I have a boyfriend. But when I first was here, I just felt like, there's so many more guys here. They're not all quality. You gotta
quantity doesn't equal quality.
You have to sort through them. And I know that I'm sure, Cornelia talked about it, or maybe she didn't, but there's this stereotype in Miami that it's really hard to meet a guy or girl because everyone is so superficial. And a lot of the times people aren't honest about what they do, where they live, how much money they have. They're gloating. Is that a word? Gloating? Or is it bloating? No, no, it's gloating.
They're bloating.
Do you know what gloating is? Gloating? Yes.
You are asking the wrong person if that's a word.
Gloating means you're showing off.
Okay.
You're acting like you have $1 million, but you have $100 in your bank account.
Okay.
You drive a Lamborghini, but you should be driving a Honda Civic.
Okay.
That's the vibe in Miami. So it's really hard to know when people are real versus, obviously fake. But you're going to laugh. So at the beginning of last year, I had a goal. I obviously moved here. I didn't have that many friends. I didn't know that many people. So at the beginning of the year, on my vision board, I dedicated myself to joining a social club. And I didn't want to do Soho House because everyone has a Soho House membership. And I feel like it's just gone to shit now. And there's just not so many places. And then one of my clients, a guy, he posted on Instagram. He posted an Instagram story of this beautiful place. People looked like it was something like tennis. I didn't know exactly at the time what it was. It had just opened, and it was all hot men. And in that moment, I was like, I don't know what that is, where it is, but I need to go there. So I messaged him and I'm like, where is that? And he was like, oh, it's this new paddle club that opened up. There's a tournament happening. You should come. Obviously, me and my girlfriend went the next day. I'm like, I gotta go. It's all hot men, but quality men. And
all the single ladies, are you taking notes? What's the address? Is there an address? Can we?
Yeah, no, actually though. But a lot of people, if you're from Miami, or even if you're not now, because they're popping up everywhere, but I'm talking about Reserve. And have you heard of it? Reserve Paddle? Okay. So it's like a beautiful club on the water. Paddle is a sport similar to tennis. It's a racket sport. And it's number one, it's like amazing for networking. Long story short, I ended up going and I ended up taking lessons and I committed to the sport. I play all the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's how I met my boyfriend. I manifested it. I was like, I'm going to meet a boyfriend here. I said, I made a TikTok. I was like, I'm going to meet my future husband at Paddle. As I was doing like a get ready with me for going there the first time I went there. And then I ended up actually meeting my boyfriend. I'm like, I knew it. This was maybe 5 months later, but yeah, it's good for networking, good for socialization. You're getting a workout. There's a Pura Vida. It's on the water. I met some girlfriends there. So
amazing. So it's a place to meet sort of like-minded people who are,
that's like my pro tip.
Amazing.
Yeah. You want to find like friends or a man, go to Paddle.
Or both.
Kelsey style.
Maybe just you put it on your vision board and you go. I love that though. You went for, you listen to maybe in some way your intuition.
Yeah.
Like some kind of nudge to go.
Yeah.
And you went.
I did it.
How many people have something like that and they're like, no, I won't put myself out there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that actually, putting yourself out there. How important is it? Because obviously you moved to a new city. You were just mentioning you wanted to make an effort. What about if somebody's listening to this right now and they're like in this situation where maybe they're in a new place and they find it really difficult to meet people? I've made up my mind a long time ago that the stereotype that the older you get, the harder it is to make friends is BS.
Mm-hmm.
I have met some of the most amazing people of my life in the last just couple of years.
Yeah.
And it keeps on getting better. I keep on meeting more people, kind people, nice people, and I really don't think it's true. But, as somebody who obviously has experience in this and you met your boyfriend, you met new people, how important is it to take that first step?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the hardest part is taking the first step. And then once you take it, it opens up so much opportunity and so many other doors. I would definitely say I'm a Virgo. I'm definitely more like reserved and introverted. So for me to I don't naturally want to go out and talk to everyone. Like, for example, I don't know if I would be someone who would want to have a podcast, because as much as I love meeting people and talking to them, I don't know if I could hold quality conversations with so many people all the time, because I have to put my energy elsewhere, because it's so limited to begin with. And we all have different personalities, but when it comes to putting ourselves out there, and if you are in a new city, I know a lot of people have moved within the past couple of years, and you're taking this big step to start your life over. In a way, you need to put yourself out there. I would even just go to restaurants and sit at the bar by myself, and you never know who you're going to meet or speak to or talk to. I dedicated to myself to go joining a social club, going out somewhere, because also I work from home. So when I first moved here, there would be 5 days where I wouldn't talk to anyone in person other than my concierge. So I really had to even though I wanted to stay home and go to bed, I would make a point if there was an event to go. If there was, a girl that I just met, she asked to go for a walk, take the time and the effort to do it. Whatever it was, I really had to just put myself out there and take the steps in order to really flourish and grow.
Yeah, it's important. I feel like I feel like it's almost unfair to be I'm not meeting any new people.
Yeah.
Without making an effort to meet new people.
You choose that. Anything that's happening in your life, you're choosing that. So if you're sitting at home and you're confused why, you don't have any friends, well, in a way, you're choosing that because you're sitting at home and you're not making an effort to be social. Go to a gym. There's so many apps now these days where you can Fitness Pal or whatever it is, where you can find a fitness, but a friend and go to a class together, or, go to a wellness event. That's a great place to meet people. go to paddle, go to, there's no excuses. You are always in control of like your own destiny and what you want. So it's all about the choices that you make that will, and at the end of the day, give you the outcome that you're looking for.
What are your non-negotiables in dating? Ooh.
Non-negotiables in dating.
Or like the standards that you're like, I'm not, like I would never go below that.
Right. I think that honesty and openness is definitely number one. Another really big one for me, this is kind of like one thing. So I had mentioned that I was dating someone during the pandemic, like amazing guy, like awesome, good quality, nothing bad to say about him. But one thing that he didn't have that my other boyfriends that I had longer term relationships with did is having like just a goofy, funny, silly personality. Like I love that. I love someone who's going to make me laugh. Again, I'm the more like reserved one. So I love someone who's outgoing. Like my boyfriend's a Sag. One of my best friends is a Sag. They have such a big personality, but like they're the entertainment. I will sit here and be like, you'll entertain me and I'm just going to like chill.
Yeah.
So that is definitely such a big one for me. And then if I had to pick one more, I would say being emotionally available. I think a man that's able to open up and talk about how they feel and their emotions is so underrated, but it is so, so, so important because you really can't break past that like surface level relationship if someone isn't willing to tell you how they feel. So that's a really big one.
What about red flags?
Oh, like what?
The opposite of all those. Obviously, are there any other ones that you're like, okay, this is a huge red flag, huge no, as soon as you'd see it?
I saw Cornelia actually post about this the other day. Someone who's hiding their phone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like I was dating a guy a long time ago, but I remember, and he was cheating on me. I got to throw that in there as well. We would be like ordering Uber Eats, and he would be ordering it on his phone. And he would be too scared to even pass his phone to me for me to like select my order on Uber Eats because he was cheating on me. So I feel like in that relationship, there were so many red flags that I was just like, oh, not so attentive. I was also a lot younger. But I think that someone who's hiding their phone from you, like something's happening, something's wrong.
Yeah.
That's definitely a non-negotiable in terms of a red flag.
Yeah. For sure. It's interesting you said that. I recently was talking to my husband about how like he asked me, it's like, can I use your phone? And I'm like, of course.
Yeah.
Like he knows the password to my phone. I know the passcode to his phone. And I'm like, you can go on my phone whenever you want. There's absolutely nothing I would ever hide from you. Right. And then it like made me realize, and I told him, I was like, hey, do you know how many couples like don't have that? How many couples actually hide stuff from one another? I was like, the only thing that I'm okay with you hiding from me is if you're going to bomb us something.
Yeah.
And then like you want to go incognito about it, but that's different, right?
Yeah.
It's not like that constant hiding of something. It's like you go incognito a couple of times and then.
But it's not like, would you ever feel the need or like want to go through your boyfriend's phone?
No, never. I never have. Actually.
But that's a really good sign because I think that if you have that feeling like, you want to go through your boyfriend's or your girlfriend's phone, there's a reason. That's like your gut tell. Yeah, it's like your gut telling you something, that something is off. And at that point, you don't even need to go through the phone. You just need to listen to your gut.
Yeah. Is there anything else on like the first date that if you see something like that, you right away would be like, no second date?
On a first date, I don't really think that there's like well, actually, no. One thing that I really hate is when a guy walks in front of me. So, for example, if we walk into a restaurant and he like runs first to the table and I'm like walking behind him, that is
like forgetting.
Yeah, like I will just leave. I don't know. For some reason, I hate it so much.
Yeah,
I think it's so disrespectful, and it's like, just it's like very cringy to me.
Yeah.
For me though, before I started dating my boyfriend, I again was also trying to put myself out there in terms of dating. And I did go on, I wouldn't say a lot, but I went on, a handful of first and second dates. That was pretty much it. And I know like right away if I like someone or not. It's just the vibe, it's the connection, it's the chemistry. Right away, I'm very picky. Again, I think it's probably the Virgo in me. But for example, so when I met my boyfriend, I literally was walking through the club, like going to an event, which was actually at Paddle, and he was sitting with a guy that I knew. And I looked over because the guy said hi to me, and I noticed him right away. And in my head, I was like, who's that? And then so instead of just saying, hey, like, gotta go, I ended up staying with them for I was already late to the event. I stayed with them for 20 minutes speaking with them because I was interested in him. Like I knew right away.
You had a feeling.
Yeah. So when I go on these first dates, I mean, maybe there's a small percentage after time I would like them more. But for me, I just always know right away.
Yeah, for sure.
I
believe we all do.
Yeah.
We just kind of hide or try to silence, maybe for reasons that are but on paper this looks great, or
right.
various
or
reasons.
Maybe he'll grow on me. I had a couple of those guys that I was seeing for a couple of weeks. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not if I don't like them now, then I need to just move on. Stop wasting my time.
Yeah. Do you think that also comes with a little bit more, for lack of a better word, experience? Do you find that you have completely different standards now than you did, for example, when you were in your mid-20s? Early 20s.
100%. Yeah. I think as you live, you learn, and you don't put up with as much bullshit. I'm 32. Feel like I'm 62. 62 at heart, 32 in, real life. But I have also just had not a lot. I've had one major toxic relationship, and you learn so much during those times. In the heat of it, in the thick of it, you're like, why me, and why do I have to go through this? But I feel like that primes you and preps you for your future self and your future relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. My husband and I talk about this a lot because him and I met, it's going to be 10 years this coming August.
It's crazy.
And we talk about it all because we've evolved as human beings.
Yeah,
we were completely different people now than we were when we first met. And we talk a lot. I was actually on a podcast yesterday talking about that. But there's certain things that we both put up with then that if we would have met now in those initial stages of dating, we both would have been no.
Mm-hmm. But you weren't even 20 when you met.
I was 19.
Yeah. So
I was 19. So we were
exactly.
Yeah.
The person that you are when you're 19 versus 29.
Yeah. It's a totally different thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was alone in Canada, and I moved cities 3 months into our relationship.
Oh, wow.
And I was I would never do that now unless you would have proposed to me. If we met now, the way I am right now at this stage of my life, I would have been move us who?
Yeah.
Just your, a girl you met 3 months ago? No. And it's funny because he would bring up certain instances of I wouldn't do that now either. I would have been a lot. So it's interesting how,
our standards definitely rise up.
Yeah, hopefully. If they don't, that's a problem. Right?
Girl, you got to keep working on it.
Yes, I agree with you. I love this conversation. I don't know why, but I love talking about dating and relationships always. Because it's always a pain point for people, right?
Yeah.
And there's always so much you can learn from one another about it. So I love it. And especially, you moving here and just experiencing the different scenes, so to speak, right? How do you find, the nutritional aspect of your moving on to your wellness, to your business and to the wellness conversation? How do you decipher between, and this is something that I struggle with too, between the advice that's out there staying on top of knowing what you need and just following through with it. And the reason why I'm asking you this is I'm sure, you know, being in this space, you know that you can listen to like 10 different people who are experts in nutrition, dietitians, you know, doctors. They will all have different opinions.
Yeah.
What do you stick to?
I know it can be definitely a very confusing space because everyone has such different opinions of, you know, what we should be doing. But kind of my approach to nutrition and to nourishing is just eating real clean foods. Like I make it very simple. Cook at home 80 to 90% of the week. Source whole foods. You know, limit seed oils, limit sugar, limit alcohol as much as you can. Prioritize protein in every single meal. That should be like the star of the show on your plate at every meal. And we really don't need to make it that hard. Another thing that we've talked about in terms of exercise is that mind-muscle connection. And it's the same thing with eating and with your diet. Like you really need to tune into your body and listen to hunger cues, listen to when you're actually hungry, make sure you're hydrated. A lot of the times we start to get hungry, but it's because we're not properly hydrated. So we may or may not have consumed the correct amount of calories for the day or at a certain point in the day. But our body may be telling us that we're hungry, but it's actually because we're like so thirsty and you need to have some electrolytes and some water. So I think that Instagram, I think that social media, I think that just our culture in general makes it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. And you just need to come back to the basics. Like it's not so hard. And if you want some good food inspo, you should follow me on Instagram because I am always trying to recreate healthy, well, even not so healthy meals and trying to make them healthy using simple ingredients. Like yesterday, I made a loaf of bread out of soda water, like literally Perrier and flour, organic flour. And I made like the most delicious loaf of bread. So you can make like—
You have an extra bedroom?
Yeah, you can move in.
Apartment?
You can make like cooking, number one, fun, but number two, easy and simple. I really don't I never like had this passion for being in the kitchen. It almost kind of started again during the pandemic when—
Speaking of hydration,
yeah.
Sound, I don't know if the microphone will catch this water being poured, but I was like, do you want some? Do you have—
Oh no, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're at home, so I started cooking a lot more and started getting inspired with recipes and things like that. But in the past year, I've really taken my cooking to the next level. Even people who know me, they're a little bit shook. They're like, this is pretty, like you go in on the baking and the cooking, but it's just the content that the people want to see. But also it's like my time in my day where I'm kind of just like at peace. I'm not rushing. I'm in the kitchen. I'm making dinner or I'm making breakfast, whatever it is, being in tune and present when you're eating as well. That's very important in terms of like digestion and having a meal and feeling good. So a lot of the times people are eating while, making an email or writing a message or watching a show, and they're not actually, again, being present on what they're doing. And you could be eating too fast. You could not be chewing your food as well. All these things are going to lead to slower digestion. Our body's potentially not absorbing all of the goodness from the food as much. So it's really, we don't need to make it complicated. Try to eat at home as much as you can. Try to go grocery shopping, eat whole clean foods, shop at the outskirts of the grocery store. So like produce, protein, vegetables, fruits, and yeah.
There's Trader Joe's here. I am not sponsored by Trader Joe's, by the way, but if you're listening to this and you're in some way, shape, or form connected to Trader Joe's and you would like to be, or you would like me to advertise Trader Joe's or sponsor it, please let me know. But I honestly would move. I've said this so many times on this trip. I would move to United States just to have Trader Joe's close.
Really?
Yes.
See, I'm kind of a Trader Joe's hater.
No. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode, Kelsey. Thanks for coming on the show.
I don't love it so much.
You don't love it?
Okay, there are some things that are amazing. But number one, If you want me, do you want me to go in right now?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I want to know how is it that you don't like Trader Joe's? I would live
I
there.
hate that all of their produce is in plastic. Do you ever
Okay.
notice that? Like everything's wrapped in plastic.
Have we bought a lot of plastic? Dean behind the camera has gone to Trader Joe's. Yeah, we have, I guess, right?
Forget the water bottles. Water bottles, fine. Literally, like their red peppers are in plastic. Their lettuce is in plastic. Everything's wrapped in. Next time you go, like
I'm gonna pay
take note of
attention.
that. And then they obviously have a lot of amazing, like dips or dressings or whatever it may be. But a lot of it, there is again an exception. There are some things that I do buy from there, but a lot of them are just filled with crap.
We're talking about Trader Joe's. You were
Yes.
breaking my heart with it.
know, I'm
Where do you go to
sorry.
shop?
I go to Whole Foods.
Whole Foods. Okay. Yeah.
It is more expensive, but I just find that the quality of produce, meats, eggs is all better. Like they don't have good almond milk at Trader Joe's. You're like, ah.
I got coconut milk there the other day.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. Maybe they have a good coconut milk.
Yeah.
I've never looked, but I only have almond milk with my coffee. So there are like certain spices, or if I need peanut butter or, maple syrup, baking stuff, I'll buy from there. But like produce, I find night and day at Whole Foods.
Okay.
And then the meat, I don't know. There's something, maybe it's like a psychological thing because it's so much cheaper. So I think that it's not as good as quality.
You're exactly like my husband. When my husband sees something like higher, when it comes to food, he'll see something that like has a higher price tag and he'll be like, well, that must be better because it's a higher price. But generally speaking, that's true though.
Yeah.
Do you know? Like it's.
I want someone to do like an investigation at the Trader Joe's like manufacturer facilities. Should we go in there like undercover?
I was just going to say, we should do it. Totally.
Yeah.
It'll be like a whole episode.
Because I want to know, like, is your meat actually high quality, like sustainable, free range? Like, I want to know all these things.
Yeah. Is it what they advertise it?
Because it's like Trader Joe's brand. It's not like it's another brand where they have to declare all, the standards of the meat that they're selling because it's a third party coming in. It's like they sell their own stuff. So like, what's happening?
Damn it, Kelsey, you're making me question all these things now. We were gonna move, like my husband said, I'm not living anywhere farther than 500 meters away from Trader Joe's.
Stop.
Yeah, that's how much.
Okay, so maybe you do have to move to Edgewater.
There's our Trader Joe's there.
Mhm.
We need to go check it out. We need to go check out Edgewater.
Midtown.
And we need to check out Whole Foods. I think we have Whole Foods in Vancouver, and it is really great.
Yeah.
Really, really
and
great.
it's not as expensive in the US as it is in Canada. Like Canada, I find that it's a lot more expensive. In the US, like here, I just find like it's a metro or it's a regular grocery store. It's not crazy prices.
Yeah. Canada's a little bit insane when it comes to a lot of things. But
and also like this is like a major key situation that you need to know. You can order Whole Foods on Amazon, which is how I go shopping.
What?
Majority of the time. Yeah. So if you have an Amazon.
Can you do that in Canada?
No. If you have an Amazon US account.
America. I'm telling you, America's the best place on earth.
I know. I mean, it's not ideal because I would like to, choose my own things sometimes. Right. But if that's like 2 hours out of my day going to Whole Foods.
Exactly.
So if I can order it online, then, and I have a thing like my boyfriend pays for the food and I make all of it. It's the best thing ever.
Wow.
Yes.
Do you guys live together?
No.
Okay.
So I have to I meal prep for us or he comes.
Wow.
For food.
Amazing.
Yeah, I feed him.
But he pays for the groceries.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. I'll take it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm definitely moving to America. If you can, you can order groceries on Amazon here. Like, you kidding? Oh, that's amazing though. I love that so much. I mean, it's tough, right? Because well, it is and it isn't. I also agree with you. Like, people overcomplicate things so much. And I was just chatting about this with somebody earlier today. I feel like a lot of this is just like the culture of extremes, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if you have to,
right,
go on a more, healthy diet, people take it to an extreme. Like, I'm sure you are very familiar with the trends of like the carnivore diet and like all of these trends. And I found that in the last few years, it's almost like, what's the trendiest thing? You know, people try it and then they kind of can't keep up because it's unsustainable.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, like, I'm in no position to give you, you know, nutritional advice.
Yeah.
But I just eat what, like, I eat food.
Yeah.
I don't
eat what feels good.
Yeah, I eat what feels good. I don't overcomplicate things. I don't obsess over it. My rules are very simple. Very little sugar to no sugar, especially like refined sugar. No seed oils. Lower carbs, like lower carb, I guess, intake.
Yeah.
And then as much protein as I can take. I work out. It works well for me. I see it in my muscles when I eat that way.
Yeah.
I indulge into a little bit of wine here and there. Like, that's it. That's basically all I do. And aesthetically speaking, I'm the happiest I've ever been with my body after following that. Did you ever have times when you would go on a very strict diet?
When I was younger in university, yeah, definitely. I would do like absolutely no like cheating. So eating bad, that would include like carbs other than like wraps until Sunday. So I would eat like so healthy, no sugar, literally just like protein, fruits, vegetables. Wouldn't eat after a certain point, like in the like 6:30. And then on Sunday I would like go in, like I would eat everything, like whatever was in my sights, I would eat it. And it was so unhealthy. I was obsessed with how much I weighed. I was the smallest I ever was, but it wasn't sustainable and it wasn't healthy. I don't think that we should have like cheat days. I think that we should just eat a balanced diet, and that can look different for everyone. Maybe that's 80-20, maybe that's 70-30, depending on your goals, depending on your genetics. And yeah, I think that's a lot more sustainable. And I think that food is such a pleasure of life, and we shouldn't neglect ourselves of that. Like, I'm okay to eat cake. Like, I'm okay to eat French fries. I will eat all these things, but in moderation. And I'm not going to like have that every night.
Right.
So the other part to it is I know that eating healthy makes me feel good. And I think my goal every single day for me and for everyone should be to feel our very best and to feel good. So if I'm eating French fries every day, you know, I'm probably going to see it in my skin, and I'm going to be more lethargic, and I'm just not going to feel good. But, you know, if I go out for dinner and I have French fries, like I wake up and I'm not thinking about it the next day. I'm like over it. But I think that that's something that a lot of women go through when they're like younger, and then we kind of grow out of that. But I also think that there's a shift in our culture currently that is teaching, hopefully, this is how I feel, this is how it looks at least, it's teaching like the younger generation like different morals and values. Like, we're more accepting of all sizes, all gender, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like all thin models now on the runways. We're size inclusive, where it's okay to like do what you want to do. There's not this expectation that, you know, you need to be this size, and you're not just seeing this size in every magazine and again on the runways, whatever it may be. As a society, we're way more inclusive, and hopefully that's teaching like the younger generation that you don't need to like go on extreme diets. Like, you don't need to eat this way. You don't need to do things that are like super unhealthy and not safe and not, you know, like going to make you feel good at the end of the day. So yeah, I don't know where I was
going to extremes. Yeah, no, I like your point. I do think that we swung a little too far the other way for a little while there. I feel like now it's becoming a little bit more like, you know, in the Twiggy days, for example, like she brought basically anorexia as like a fashionable thing, right? So we went like really far down that path. And then in the last, I would say since like COVID, it's been a little bit more chill in at least that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I'm sure, you know, if you talk to somebody who's been exposed to other things, they'll tell you differently. But there was a while there where I feel like it swung too far the other way. And the body positivity movement was masked, in my personal opinion, behind just normalizing unhealthiness, because there's beauty in health, and looking good, whatever that means to you. Looking healthy is objectively speaking good for you. Working out is objectively speaking good for you. Eating well is objectively speaking good for you, but you don't have to obsess over it.
Right.
Like, actually, as a matter of fact, most people I know who look great and feel great, they just don't. Like, again, they
they let it
food.
go.
Yeah, they let it go. They do their best. They work out. They move their body. They eat well. And that's it. Like, it's not, it's not rocket science, so to speak, right? So I think, we swung too far into one direction, too far into the other. And now I feel like we're more or less
medium.
Finding a happy medium. At least that's what I'm seeing. Maybe I'm an optimist.
I think so. I think from like a social media standpoint, that's what we're seeing. And I really talk about this all the time on my posts and in a lot of my content, that like when you kind of just like let it go.
Yeah.
And you stop obsessing and you stop focusing on everything you should or shouldn't be doing, and you put your body in a more calm state and you lower your stress levels and you level out your nervous system, your body responds to that in such a beautiful way. And that's when the weight will come off. That's when you will, be the most energized. We also need to be looking at the cues that our bodies are telling us. So if we have cravings all the time, if we have low energy, if we're not sleeping well, all of these things are our bodies like trying to tell us something. Yeah. So we need to again, listen to our bodies. What is my body trying to tell me? And then we need to start making adjustments. So you need to hydrate more. You need to get better sleep. Maybe shut your phone off, a few hours before you go to bed. And when you wake up in the morning, don't reach for it first thing, because all of these signs relate back to, at the end of the day, our nutrition, because that's what is really energizing and fueling our body every single day. So if our nutrition is off, again, it's going to affect all these different things. And then our body's going to tell us, hey, you need to start eating differently if you want to feel better.
Yeah.
And once you get to that place where you can eat properly, be chill about it, eat a balanced diet, not go to an extreme either way, it'll put your body in harmony. And that's when you will see the best results.
Yeah.
And pairing that obviously with movement and exercise.
You heard that, Dean, behind the camera there? Dean behind the camera there has been eating a lot of McDonald's in the last few days. I'm going to call him out on it. We've been trying to re-educate him.
Dean, you got to lay off the Big Macs.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think it's all about just relaxing. Actually, let's zone into that for a quick minute. Mm-hmm. Relaxing, femininity, because those kind of are supposed to go, I feel like, hand in hand.
Yeah.
And also your thoughts on the approach of working with your cycle and how does the cycle affect your training routine. Yeah.
So if we want to focus just on cycle syncing, then I would say that for women, it is obviously men don't have a cycle. So it is so important. And again, this is something that I just really tapped into and truly learned about, took the time to learn about it maybe a year and a half ago. I don't know why this is not taught to us from grade 1 in the school system. Why are we not learning about our bodies? We function so differently throughout all of the phases in our cycle.
I have my borderline conspiracy theory, and it's not even a conspiracy theory, but I have my
reasons why.
I have my reasons and suspicions as to why, because we kind of try to be like men. Mm-hmm. In the Western world. So there's on a societal level, we're like, no, you push through it. You don't, you don't complain. So what if you have a period? Everybody, all the women have our periods, right?
Did you know that France is the only country in the world that women on the first day of their period can take a sick day?
Oh, wow.
They legalized that a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So I feel like in Europe and not in North America, they kind of tap into it more and they get it maybe more to a certain extent. But cycle syncing, was also very trendy in the past year. And I think in a good way, because it allowed so many women to really tap into it and to learn about it. generally speaking, during our follicular and ovulation phases, which is the phases after our period, that is our time that we're most energized, that we feel our very best. So that's the best time to be creative, to do strength training. If you like running, doing your higher intensity workouts. And then we get into our luteal phase, which is a little bit longer. It's about, kind of ranges for everyone, but around 10 days. And then that takes us into our menstrual phase. So like the phase leading up to our period, and then our period, which is usually about 5 days. That is our time where we need to focus on more low impact, more yoga, stretching, walking. This is a time where you don't want to be starting new projects, and just allowing your body to rest and feel okay. And then the moment you tap into the cycle syncing again, that goes back to lowering your nervous system, lowering your stress, and ultimately seeing your best results. So if you are able to listen to your body during your phases and give your body like what it actually needs during that time, like it's okay to not work out for a few days, like 3 or 4 days. Like that's okay. If you're like dying from period cramps and, you just have very low energy, then take like the time off. Like it's okay. You're actually doing more good by not working out than by trying to push yourself to show up.
Yeah, absolutely. You feel it. Once you try it, I don't know how you feel about it, but once I followed that system of working out and lowering my intensity around my cycle and stuff like that, I can't imagine now, like the first few days of my period to like lift weights.
Yeah.
It's just like I almost feel like I'm causing so much harm to my body when I do that.
And some women actually during their menstrual phase, they do have more energy, and it's either like you feel really good in your follicular and ovulation, and then not so high energy in your luteal and menstrual. But for some women, it kind of bleeds into, no pun intended.
No pun intended.
You have actually more energy in your menstrual, like closer to the end of the menstrual and into your follicular, and then that ovulation phase into your luteal, you have a little bit less energy. So it's also very dependent on the person. But yeah, guys, be aware of that. Get some type of tracker so you know what phase that you are in. I use 28 Wellness, they do things very similar to me where it's like workouts and nutrition and all of that. Don't sign up for that. Sign up for Shape, which is my app. But I just actually use it for the period tracker. Yeah. And it also gives you like insights and recommendations. It's a really good app.
I agree with you. Yeah, you're right. They are really great. And what about when it comes to lifting weights? Do you ever lift weights?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been strength training since I was younger. Mm-hmm. It's a like big part of my like philosophy, I guess, with training and working out. And for my body, I need it. I think everyone needs it, especially as we get older. Our muscle mass starts to decrease at such a higher rate, especially for a woman. So resistance training and strength training is very, very, very important. And it's on my app. You'll see it on my Instagram. I do strength training probably 2 to 3 times a week. Low impact about 2 times a week. And that's how I feel my best.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for your time, Kelsey. How can people find you? I'll obviously link everything, but just if you want to quickly know how to find you online.
You can find me on Instagram, the Kelsey Rose. You can find my app on shape.co on Instagram. And from there, it'll take you to my website, to my app in the Apple Store and Android store as well. And yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And thank you to our wonderful listeners for tuning into this episode. I will see you next week.